Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanacha Yamuna Tira Vanacha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Balava Girivaradhari Gopijana Balava Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanacha Yamuna Tira Vanacha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Balava Girivaradhari Gopijana Balava Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanacha Yamuna Tira Vanacha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai Shri Krishna Balaram ki jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. It's amazing, a couple of days ago there were so many devotees here and the next day they disappeared. Mystic. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udiraye nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavachuttama shloke Bhaktir bhavati naistiki Idam bhagavatam nama Purana brahma samitam Uttama shloka charitam Chakata bhagavan rishi Nishreyasaya lokasya Danyam Shastayanam Mahat. All right. Welcome. Welcome to everyone here and everyone on Vrindavan Live, radio or whatever else we have these days. Kadamba Kanamraj told me once there's maybe twice as many devotees listening somewhere else. You know. This is the mercy of Kali Yuga. So we have a lot of verses today. The story of Pradyumna. Yesterday was a lot of information, very transcendental, about Pradyumna. And we start with verse 2, chapter 55. 10th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam. Sa eva jato vaidarbhyam Krishna virya samudbhava Pradyumna iti vikyata sarvato ahavama pitu. Seva jato vaidarbhyam Krishna virya samudbhava Pradyumna iti vikyata sarvato anvanma pitu. Anyone else? Seva jato vidarbhyam Krishna virya samudbhava Pradyumna iti vikyata sarvato nvatamatu. Seva jato vaidarbhyam Krishna virya samudbhava Pradyumna iti vikyata sarvato nanvamaha pitu. Ladies, Seva jato vaidarbhya Krishna virya samudbhava Pradyumna iti vikyata sarvaton mahapitu. Sa, he, eva, indeed. Jata, taking birth. By Darbhyam, in the daughter of the king of Vidarbha. Krishna Virya, from the seed of Lord Krishna. Samudbhava, generated. Pradyumna, iti, thus. Vikyata, known. Sarvata, in all respects. Anabhama, not inferior. Pitu, to his father. And yesterday in the purport it said he's an expansion of Krishna, not exactly, just a child. He took birth in the womb of Vaidarbhi from the seed of Lord Krishna and received the name Pradyumna. In no respect was he inferior to his father. So we have like 6 verses with no purport, just telling this story. Tam sambara kamarupi kritva lokam anirdisham sa vidva mana shatrum pasyo danvat yagad graham. The demon Shambhara, who could assume any form he desired, kidnapped the infant from his, before he was even 10 days old. Understanding Pradyumna to be his enemy, Shambhara threw him into the sea and returned home. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti points out that according to Vishnu Purana, Pradyumna was kidnapped on the 6th day after his birth. Tam nirja gara balavan mina sopyaparai saha vrito jalena mahata grihito matsya jivibi. A powerful fish swallowed Pradyumna, and this fish, along with others, was caught in a huge net and seized by fishermen. Tam sambaraya kaivarta upajarur upayanam sudha mahanasam nitva vajan sudinana adbhutam. The fisherman presented that ordinary fish to Shambhara, who had his cooks bring it to the kitchen, where they began cutting it up with a butcher knife. In the Krishna book, Prabhupada comments that demons are very fond of eating fish. Drishtva tad udare balam mayavatya nyavat vedyayan narado katayat sarvam tasya sankita chetasa balasya tattvam utpattim matsyodara niveshanam. Seeing a male child in the belly of the fish, the cooks gave the infant to Mayavati, who was astonished. Narada Muni then appeared and explained to her everything about the child's birth and his entering the fish's abdomen. Sacha kamasya boy patni ratir nama yashasvini pat yor nir dagda dehasya dehotpatim pratikshati nirupita shambarena sa sudodana sadhane kamadevam shishunbudya chakre sneham tadarbake. Mayavati was in fact Cupid's renowned wife, Rati. While waiting for her husband to obtain a new body, his previous one having been burnt up, she had been assigned by Shambhara to prepare vegetables and rice. Mayavati understood that this infant was actually Kamadev, and thus she began to feel love for him. Purport by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains this story as follows. When Cupid's body was burned to ashes, Rati worshipped Lord Shiva to obtain another body for Cupid. Shambhara, having also come to Shiva for a benediction, was recognized by the Lord first, who told him, "You should now ask for your benediction." Shambhara, struck with lust at seeing Rati, replied that he wanted her as his benediction, and Shiva complied. Lord Shiva then consoled the sobbing Rati, telling her, "Go with him, and in this very home you will attain what you desire." Thereupon, Rati bewildered Shambhara with her deluding power, and taking the name Mayavati, remained in his house untouched. Om Agana Timirandasya Gana Gana Shalakaya Chaksuramilitanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swa Padantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desa Tarane. Namo Mahavaranaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gaura Tishe Namaha Panchatatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam. Hey Krishna, Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate, Gopesha Gopika Kanta, Radhakanta Namostate. Jayatam Sudato Pangor Mama Mandir Matergati, Matsarvasya Padambodo, Shishi Radha Madon Manon. Divyan, I can't remember that one. But anyway, we are here in Holy Dham of Vrindavan, and we see the very mystical, Krishna Leela. Like we might think, well, why didn't they have a little bit better security in the nursery room, right? What kind of child protection is this? But this demon could assume any form. It doesn't give the details, but he could come in looking exactly like Rukmini or whatever, take the child and go and nobody would notice. This is how the Maya works. So there are many stories in our scripture and in the Bible about people being swallowed by fish and different things. Someone would also say, well, no baby could live if it was swallowed by a fish, because fish have, powerful digestion. But this is Leela. And besides that, Pradyumna is an expansion of Krishna. He's non-different, almost. So how this can happen is quite interesting. How, they both go to Lord Shiva at the same time. So Shiva gives the benediction first to the Sambhara, because he was there first, and his lusty desires. But then Shiva's arranged everything, Rati also has Maya powers, so she could bewilder the guy to forget his lusty feelings. And somehow she was only cooking the vegetables, so not cooking the fish. The demons are fond of eating fish, so it's a very big business. But they're saying now, in a few years, there'll be more garbage in the ocean than fish. So much gets washed in. So today is Chandan Yatra starting, also Akshaya Tritiya. Dharmatma said I could talk about Madhavendra Puri because he started the Chandan Yatra. There's no mention, but he did make a big yatra for the sake of Chandan, for the deity. He went all the way from Vrindavan by an order of the Lord in a dream to get Chandan, because Gopal was saying after being buried for probably thousands of years, he was still very hot. So Madhavendra Puri took off and went all the way to Jagannath Puri to get Chandan to cover the body of the Lord. And it was not easy, but everybody in Puri cooperated. To buy the Chandan, it required a lot of permits, and to travel, it required a lot of permits to show that he was the rightful owner of the Chandan. In those days there were many, many kingdoms, and everyone had its own customs. It's bad enough now with one, but when he got to Remuna, which isn't so far from Puri, halfway to Calcutta, he got another dream, and he said, just put the Chandan on Gopinath, and that'll be the same, I'll be satisfied. There's a lot of lessons there, that Krishna is everywhere, and it's the same Krishna. By serving Radha Shyam Sundar, you're serving also everyone, because it's all Krishna. He has different names or different pastimes. I was just reading yesterday Lord Chaitanya's meeting with Balabhabata. Balabhabata said he was a proud scholar, and he was getting humbled by Lord Chaitanya. So he came and he said, I've written a new interpretation of the holy name and I want you to hear it. Lord Chaitanya said, no, all I know is Shyamasundar Yasodanandana. That's all I know. Krishna, the holy name is Krishna. Krishna is Shyamsundar. He's a color like that, and he's the son of Yasoda. I don't want to hear anything else. No mundane interpretation of the holy name. So, anyway, this is Chandan Yatra. It's also the biggest festival in Puri. 42 days. For 21 days, they take what do they call them, Gopal? They go to Narendra Sarovara, have a boat festival. That's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. For 21 days, every day they go. And I guess they put the Chandan too on it. But then for 21 days, they have in the temple. That might be the Chandan part, I didn't catch all the details. So when you look up Akshaya Tritiya, they have on the internet different questions people ask. So, what should you do on this day? So there's a lot of Hindi traditions. You buy gold, you do this, you do that. Start your business, get married, because it's supposed to be that whatever you do will carry on. So Akshaya is like Akshaya Patra, that Draupadi had to never run out. Small pot, but you could serve any number of people. But it said first, give charity. I thought, okay, that's a good thing. We should give charity. Devotees are most charitable, most munificent, because they're giving Krishna. So the best charity, of course, is to give Krishna. You give the books, give the holy name, give prasadam. That's all going on here very nicely. I came out from the Samadhi Arctic this morning, and the Mahadis had a book table going already, and people were buying books. So there's no hard and fast rules in time and place. You can, any time, any place. We can give charity, can give the holy name. And I don't know now, but I heard a couple of days ago, 17,000 leaf cups and, prasadam. All this is, anyway, we give charity. And just by existing as devotees, by letting people see, this is the best thing we can do. We don't have to, do all kinds of other ritualistic things. Sarva dharma parityajya mamekam sharanam. We don't have to do all these things. We just have to surrender to Krishna. And that means giving the charity of Krishna. Like munificent, giving charity means giving more than the person deserves even. That's Lord Chaitanya, and that's Prabhupada's movement, giving more charity than anyone deserves. So we can meditate on these pastimes. There, mundane scholars will go on and on and on, trying to understand what is this symbolism, how can this, they think it's mythology. Even I noted that movie that became very popular, The Little Krishna. In the beginning it said mythology. They didn't want to say this is true stories because people might reject it. But that's not good. I went to we tried to preach in university a little bit back in the Radha Damodar bus days. So mostly only the classes that would ask us to come were mythology classes, sometimes religion. So, I didn't know anything and how to deal with these people. I didn't know that nowadays, they told me in Chopati they just tell jokes with the college students and then a little kirtan. No, Anyway, I was talking about Krishna's pastimes. So the teacher, he said, "Do you believe this?" And I said, "Yes." And he went, pathetic, But that's the test. Krishna, Prabhupada writes in Krishna book, the test. The devotee believes it, and the non-devotee won't believe it. But they'll memorize it, they'll teach it, they'll make movies, but they don't believe that it's really happened. But even nowadays, people have some kind of mystic powers, magical, illusory powers, can make you think something's there that's not there, can make think something's not there that is there. These magicians, just ordinary magicians. Now they don't even call them magicians, they call them illusionists. They just create illusion. And they know it's not magic. It's just a trick. So, they can talk to the whole crowd, and then there was one who was next to the Empire State Building, and he said, "Look, the Empire State Building's gone. It's not there." And the whole crowd that was watching couldn't see the Empire State Building. Everyone else could see it. It was still there. So these things happen. So what to speak of Rati, the wife of Cupid, these are transcendental personalities. How Lord Shiva can arrange such a thing to fulfill the wishes of both of them and protect everybody. And I guess Shambhara got killed by Pradyumna later, right? So the story is very, very interesting. You know, and Pradyumna grew up right away. Can't imagine how Rukmini was feeling. There's not much talk about it, but her first son disappears 6 days old, and I have no idea what, you know, didn't find him. So she's feeling great separation. That was Krishna's first marriage. At that time, the only marriage. So these are Leela. Krishna has done. We get a lot of questions, you know, like when they hear pastimes, well, how could this be? How could that be? You know, like Lord Chaitanya's appearance. And so there's a story that Krishna was talking with Rukmini, and she was saying, there's something you don't know, you can't understand. And Krishna said, no, I know everything. And she said, no, you don't know how much your devotees love you. You don't know that, you don't understand. So someone asked me, well, how can Krishna not understand it? He's Vedaham Samatitani, Vartamane Charjuna, Bhavishyani Chabhutani. You know, I know everything, past, present, and future, but nobody knows me. I thought, well, it never said that Krishna admitted that he didn't know, but he can pretend. He can not pretend. When Krishna is a baby with Mother Yasoda, he's a baby. Fully. He's not just play acting. Prabhupada, this is kind of, you know, I'm drifting, but somebody was bringing up in some meeting recently that there's still a section of devotees that you can't fall from the spiritual world. No one ever fell. And Prabhupada is teaching different from the parampara and stuff. So I just happened to see one talk with Prabhupada, and he said that no one falls, they just think they fell. They think they fell. Because you can't leave, you know, Krishna's energy. It's all spiritual. But and then he was talking to Karandar Prabhu, who at that time was one of the main leaders. He said, just like if you're in a drama, if you think I'm Karandar acting like Hamlet or whatever, the drama area, then it won't work. You have to fully be convinced that I'm whatever the character. So when someone wants to forget Krishna, he makes them forget, and they really think, there's no spiritual world, I was never there, I'm here, and this is my eternal identity, I'm this body. Krishna can arrange all that. But he can also get us out from it. So that mysteriously, if we just hear these leelas, it will pull us out. It will do something to purify our consciousness. We just chant the holy name. We just focus on the basic things. Everybody, you know, likes to hear Srila Prabhupada's lectures. He mostly talked about regulated principles, chanting daily, you know, different things, stressed on those things. Because we can't leave aside the basics. Any big athlete, they practice. I read about one, he was considered the greatest basketball player or something. And one of the teammates saw him practicing very early in the morning, and he was practicing the most basic thing that they learned, the first thing they learned, you know. And he said, why are you practicing that? You're the greatest player in the world. He said, that's why I'm the greatest. because I never forget the basics. So why is somebody, say like we're all talking about Gopal Krishna Goswami, and it's something we should keep in mind for some long time. And I think I was at the samadhis over there, and there's a samadhi of Vibhu Chaitanya. Most of you probably never met him, but he was like a dynamo in the kitchen. When we hear, Dinabandhu can tell you, he did so much. He cooked all the sweets, I don't know, like, he just lists off, like, when he became crippled and couldn't do it anymore, they had to get 6 devotees to fill in what he did. So you can't imagine how many are required to try to keep up what Gopal Krishna Maharaj started. Many thousands, all of us, the whole movement, not just a few, not just the GBC or his disciples, because it's a bigger thing than Delhi and Russia. It's much bigger. It's the whole universe. So. But Krishna can empower everybody if we just make that effort. He didn't start out like that. I was with him in Juhu in 1978. He had nothing. He probably had his own little room, and he was a GBC for India, but at that time not for Juhu. But he was doing just BBT work, and very, very diligently, leaving early every morning, coming back late at night. And Juhu was, at that time they had 1,000 life members. In 1 year, it became 2,000. So the first 1,000 was 8 years, 7 or 8 years. The next 1,000 was 1 year. People were just coming. Do you have a guest room in London? Do you have a guest room in New York? I need the card today. I'm leaving, but they wanted to be life members. Then the good life members started telling their friends, you become life members. So now I don't know how many millions they have, but it grew. But by his, steadiness, he never gave up. Vrindavan was probably more challenging in so many ways. At one time, Kadamba Maharaj told me they were meeting the executive board or something. They had 68 lawsuits that they had to work out, so many different things. But they got it all worked out. Gopal Krishna Maharaj got the land for Delhi and all the different things, the permission, the plan, so many permissions are required, and to get it built and negotiating donations. He spent with his Hindujas so much time negotiating with them. They wanted to give their donation and call it the ISKCON and Hinduja, or Hinduja and ISKCON. But he worked it out. Somehow or other, got some kind of settlement, still got something. Of course, so many people donated, and he spearheaded that, and devotees going all over the world. So, it's one man totally surrendered to Prabhupada and giving everything. So if all of us can give whatever, we don't have so much opulence, but we can give whatever we can to help the book distribution, which was his, very, very dear thing. And now something like 70% of the books in the world are distributed in India, and a huge percentage of the books in India are distributed in Delhi, Vrindavan, Juhu, right? So and then what to speak of Russia. So this is all by his desire and his steadiness. At the same time, he was such a simple devotee, so sweet and loving and so caring for everybody. I don't know, especially his godbrothers, but everybody experienced. You know, he was always so worried, did they give you good food, did they give you room, did you need anything, you know, and he'd give his own car and, you know, everything, and tell everybody you take care of them. And these kind of things indicate like tremendous amount of advancement. It's very rare that someone is so opulent and powerful and humble. This is scriptural science. We see that at least these devotees, of course, are different. But even sometimes someone's a devotee and they get some position and then they become proud. But they don't last very long. But humble state of mind, trinadapi sunichina todorpi sishana, manina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. So we can remember, we won't see him offering, I always, now Mangalartik, I practically think, where's Gopal? Because he was always there. No matter where I was with him, he was always there for Mangalartik. I like to do in Mayapur, I used to try to go early to get ahead of him, but he would be so determined I couldn't. I just have to say, okay. He'd say, you can go to Radhamadava. I said, no, you can go to Radhamadava. He said, I'm afraid of Radhamadava. You go. So he'd always like, in Bombay, Gaurnatai, here, Krishna Balaram. And very careful to do everything right. Besides his own personal puja with everything. So we owe a great, we're very fortunate, and we should really make a point to remember, you know, such a personality and cry, you know, that we're missing him. But he's not gone. Everything he established is still here, and it's going to just grow. And just one little thing, it's not a little thing, but I was just sitting in a samadhi and someone handed me this book. Someone sent for me. It's called The Jolly Swami. You've heard of him? He was a very close friend of Gopal Krishna Goswami. Sridhar Swami. Wit and wisdom from Sridhar Swami. I just read a few little bits and pieces. There's very short clips, chapters. One's called Determination, and a lot of chapters. Just little things he said. And so I don't know if it's going to be for sale or anything. It's heavy also, like a couple kilos. So if you want to work out, you can get this book. So this is how devotees are remembered. You know, one of his disciples, who was his secretary actually, Adbhuta Hari, he put this together. A lot of work, collecting all this stuff. He was another, you know, really amazing personality. And when he got really sick, his only lamentation was, you know, he couldn't do any service. He never complained about pain or anything like that, or that he was going to die. You know, he just said, I can't do any service, it's horrible, you know, because he'd have to sleep so much. He tried, he went to Canada where he's a citizen and medicine is free. He thought he could get a liver transplant, but it was too far gone. So he came back to Mayapur. And one day he came to me, he said, I'm going over to tell Tamal I'm going to join him pretty soon. And he did. But he stayed for the Panchatattva installation because he'd worked hard collecting for that. And he was up there and he looked completely healthy. He had the brightest face. And he was pouring those heavy pots. But then a couple of weeks later, but he was a jolly Swami. I went to see him one day, and he had, something getting bloated. So he asked the doctor. He said, "Is a boy or a girl?" So I went in there, and the kids from the school were there. They're like 10, 12-year-old kids, and he was lecturing to them. And he said, "I'm dying." So they were all like, he said, "But you might die first." You could die first. This is real preacher, fearless. But he was not afraid at all. He was not. His only lamentation was that he, in the sickness state, he couldn't preach, but he still was loving and kind and concerned about everybody. So we have a great, society Prabhupada created, and these great personalities, like when I heard from Bombay, Devakanandan Prabhu was preaching. He said, without Gopal Krishna Maharaj and Jayapataka Swami, there'd be no ISKCON in India. And from him, that's really different than normally, but, because he's managing. But now all the real feelings come out, and the love and the appreciation. So the more we can appreciate other devotees and help them and encourage them, then the more everything can move ahead. We have a conflict resolution, ISKCON Resolve, and it's very busy ministry. And why? It's a spiritual society. Why do we have all these internal conflicts? Why? Because we're not off the bodily platform. We're not appreciating other devotees, whatever. I'm always thinking, but how can we create a conflict prevention, right? Like Ayurveda, it's preventative kind of, like, it's not like people sometimes say, Ayurveda is fine as long as you're not sick. If you're very, very, Kali Yuga sick from getting, such terrible lifestyle and, and concocting so many injuries, then Ayurveda can't do so much for you. You need surgery and you need all these other things. But if we live the Ayurvedic lifestyle, then maybe all these hellish, incurable diseases wouldn't attack. So we have to think how to, prevent conflict. That means Trinadapi, Sunichena, Torarapi, Srisnuna, Amanina Manadena, Kirtaniya Sadahari. I opened this book, and it was a page about to some Mataji who just got married. And he was saying, we want to keep, if you want to have a meaningful relationship, sometimes even if we're right, we have to back off. So that doesn't, not only for marriage, but any kind of relationship, any kind of so-called teamwork. Like we make teams, one very wise non-devotee, but he said, a team is a group of people, not a group of people who work together, but a group of people who trust each other. Have trust in other people's initiatives and others, and let someone else do it. Give credit. A real leader gives credit to everyone else. The boss says, I did it. Everybody screwed up, but I fixed everything. So we can do our best to keep Krishna in the center, keep the holy name always chanting. Whenever there's a conflict, like Bhagavatam says, a disease left untouched, can become very serious. If you treat it right in the beginning, you can get rid of it. So if we have conflicts, if we have doubts, if we deal with it right away, and if we're in a group, then the family, sit down and chant the holy name. Forget everything else. Don't talk about the problem, so-called problem. Chant the holy name. And all of a sudden everything becomes all right. So these pastimes are transcendental, all of them. Some of them are, like this one is very mysterious, but it just to show us what is Krishna, what is. People are so fascinated now by just these illusionist magicians. People pay thousands of dollars to get illusioned, to be tricked. And they're already in total illusion. They think they're the body. They think that they can live forever in this body just by the right diet and the right supplements and the right, whatever, so many things. And you can make your body a little bit better, but you can only live according to our, Prabhupada said it's written on the forehead. When your time comes, it comes. And just one more thing, like in the Samadhi, there's Narmada Swami. I don't know if anybody knew him either. He was a very, very hard worker in the BBT in Juhu for 25 years. And he's a Punjabi, big, strong guy, And he got terrible arthritis and he couldn't work. So he came here, I said, this is my last trip, he said, And he wanted to leave his body so bad. For years he fasted, he just wanted to leave, And he didn't. And he stayed, he was good shape, mentally always good. But he couldn't move around very much. And I remember I was with him one night, and Gopal Krishna Maharaj was there, and he was saying, let us take you to the hospital, we can give you intravenous, we can feed you, we keep you alive. And he was saying no, and the doctor said, let him go, And then I was there, we were chanting, and I left, and the next morning, finally left. But he came here just for that purpose. But you can't go until it's time. And you can't stay overtime. So take advantage of, every moment. Chant the holy name, hear about Krishna, serve devotees. It's very simple. So I'll stop. I get a little excited. I don't usually get to speak in English. So I always have to stop and wait for translations and pray that they actually translate what I said. And have to be very careful how I speak so the translator can understand it. That's one reason I don't have, when I was in high school, I used to just study the dictionary and I had a very big vocabulary, but now I don't. I use very small words, very simple, common words, because the translators don't know these things. So any comments or questions? Pradyumna ki jai. And we know he came back, he grew up to be the commander of Krishna's armies and everything. Yes. We have a microphone.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much for your insights, especially the Vaishnavas, mentioning the stories of Maharaj, Vrindavan. Maharaj, in the course of the class, you mentioned about this movie, Little Krishna. You mentioned it's a mythology.
Yeah.
So my question is related to your preaching areas like Japan and other things, wherever you reach. So how they means In India, it's a whole khichdi.
Huh?
In India, it's a very complex thing about religion. They got confused that whether this is real or mythology or something. But this was the even situation for Prabhupada also. When he went to the West, they were not aware of anything. And there you can plant the seed directly of pure bhakti also. So how is your experience in your areas of preaching about the stories of Krishna and Lord Ramchandra? How they take it?
I don't know. But no matter how they take it, it's still purifying, you know. But one Japanese, I don't know who it was, but he made a really good animation of the Ramayana. I mean, he was fascinated by it. And he actually consulted, you know, with India. And it's very good, actually. You know, to get the story. It was a story, of course, because it's only like 30 minutes or 1 hour. But they like it. So the Krishna book, we distributed so many. And it seemed like people really like it, you know. But it's just, it's not like, there's no such thing as all Japanese people or all Indian people or all Hare Krishna people, you know. We're all individuals. So, you know, there's going to be people that don't want anything to do with it. There's going to be people that really like it, you know. But Prabhupada, you know, he really put a lot of energy to have that Krishna book and Krishna stories. And Mahabharata, you know, somebody translated in Japanese, I know, Chinese. And every religion has their stories, you know. Remember Vaishesika Prabhu? In America, the Christians, you know, they would look at something and say, "You believe that?" you know. And he'd say, "You believe Jesus walked on the water? Do you believe Moses split the Red Sea?" You know. Then they would like... And then now even the priests say, "Well, they didn't really happen, they just made up stories, you know." But we know it happened, we know. It's no big deal, you know. All these things can happen. So there are soul, everyone's a spirit soul. Everyone gets purified by hearing about Krishna, by hearing the holy name, whether they like it or not. Some people, it takes a long time before it, you know, it manifests whatever effect it had on them. Like myself, when I read the Krishna book, I couldn't stop. I didn't hardly sleep for however long it took me to read that book. And even if someone came to talk to me, I would just read out loud. I'd say, "Listen to this." You know, I just totally fascinated. Many people had that experience. But other people just look at the picture and think, "Oh, this is crazy." But I think most devotees had the same experience to some extent. All right, so the bell is ringing. Prabhupada was very concerned about the bell ringing. And they had a lot of trouble. The rope would break, and one, I don't know, I think it was Shuddhi Kirtan, one called his servant and said, "Did you hear that?" And he said, "No, I didn't hear anything." "Did you hear it?" He said, "No." Prabhupada said, "That's because they didn't ring the bell. Go tell them to ring the bell." He didn't hear it. He was watching, you know. So now they're very timely. So the things Prabhupada wanted. The first class Prabhupada gave was over there. And nothing was really quite finished. Small things. So the fan that was there, it was going ka-chung, ka-chung, ka-chung. There was so much noise. So Prabhupada was, you know, and the devotees couldn't find the switch because you have to open the Pujari room door and it's inside some. So they were running all over trying to turn off that fan. And then finally got it turned off. And then Prabhupada used it for preaching. He said, you think that because, we're not suffering because we have a fan, right? We think, I'm all right, I have a fan. The heat doesn't bother me. But he said, you have the fan because you're suffering. Very simple, right? This is Prabhupada. And then he asked for the first canto. And the devotees were running around and they couldn't find a book. So he said, okay, Bhagavad Gita. And then he said, we'll read chapter 9. And for those who asked this question, which I hear quite often, how can I get free from envy? Prabhupada said, if you read chapter 9, you'll get free from envy. I've been reading it over and over again ever since, but maybe a little bit reduced, but it's still very heavy. But have faith. So that's one way. If anybody asks you, how can I get free from envy? Read the chapter 9 of the Bhagavad Gita. So thank you very much. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Krishna Balaram ki jai. Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai. Shri Radha Shyam Sundar ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Shri Guru to Gaurangas ki jai. I was going to say it in Japanese. Jolly Swami ki jai. It's very hard to carry books around.